Welcome to our deep dive into what the world might look like in 2050.
Yeah, in 2050.
We've got this really interesting mix of sources to work with today.
It's a very cool collection.
We've got articles, we've got videos, we've even got some clips from what sounds like a sci-fi podcast.
That's right.
And they're all sort of pointing towards what life might be like 3 decades from now.
Yeah, it is really remarkable how often these sources kind of converge on some pretty mind-blowing predictions.
Right.
Especially about AI.
AI, yeah.
It's going to play a role in just about every facet of life.
Yeah, well, that seems to be the big takeaway, that AI is going to be everywhere by 2050.
It really does.
But it's not just about, robots doing our dishes, right?
Right.
It's not just about automation. These sources suggest something much deeper.
No, absolutely. What's really fascinating is the potential for AI to go beyond just automating tasks.
Right.
We're talking about machines that can learn and adapt.
And collaborate with humans.
Yeah, even collaborate with humans on complex projects.
Like in that sci-fi podcast?
Yeah.
Where the robots are like anticipating your needs before you even know them?
Exactly. Imagine a world where instead of just taking orders, AI actually helps you think through problems.
Oh, wow.
And come up with creative solutions.
So it's like having a consultant in your pocket or something.
Yeah. I mean, could you imagine having an AI partner that not only helps you brainstorm, but also challenges your assumptions and pushes you to think outside the box?
That would change how we approach work, wouldn't it?
Absolutely.
But we should probably inject a bit of realism here.
Yeah, probably.
I mean, as cool as all this sounds, the potential of AI is huge.
Yes.
But it's important to remember that even these really advanced AI systems, they have limitations.
They do.
They're not perfect.
Like these sources mention something called hallucinations in GPT models.
Hallucinations?
Yeah.
I've never heard that term before.
Basically, it's when an AI generates incorrect or nonsensical output. Think of it like the AI equivalent of a brain fart.
So it's like it makes a mistake.
Yeah. It makes a mistake. It's a reminder that even the smartest machines can still make mistakes.
Yeah, that's a little unsettling, to be honest.
Yeah.
If AI is going to be making these really important decisions, like in healthcare or transportation,
Right.
how can we be sure it's not going to have a hallucination at the worst possible moment?
It's a valid concern and one that researchers are actively working to address. But it highlights the need for robust testing and oversight as we integrate AI into more and more aspects of our lives.
It's not just about building cool tech. It's about making sure it's reliable and safe, too.
Right.
But let's get back to that idea of AI collaboration for a second.
Okay.
If you could have a personal AI assistant, what's the one task you would hand over in a heartbeat?
Oh, that's a tough one. Maybe something mundane like sorting through my inbox and scheduling meetings.
Anything to free up more time for the interesting stuff, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. So we've talked about how AI might change the way we work.
Yeah.
But these sources also suggest a pretty dramatic shift in how we'll get around.
Yes, the idea of flying cars and personal air taxis popping up in so many of these sources is really exciting.
I mean, it's like something out of a futuristic movie.
It is.
You look up and the sky is buzzing with personal aircraft.
Right, and it's not just about the cool factor.
Right.
Think about the impact on urban design.
Okay.
If we're no longer limited to ground-level transportation, cities could start to develop vertically in ways we've never seen before.
Well, that futuristic podcast you mentioned even asked if we'd need pilot's licenses for our flying cars.
Interesting.
It really makes you wonder what kind of regulations will be in place.
Absolutely. And beyond just the practical considerations, there's some big ethical questions we need to think about.
Yeah.
Like, who's responsible if an autonomous flying vehicle has an accident?
Right.
These are things we need to figure out before we all take to the skies.
Well, speaking for myself, I spent an hour stuck in traffic this morning.
Oh, no.
So the idea of bypassing all that by hopping into my flying car is pretty tempting. Let's come back down to earth for a minute, though.
Okay.
Let's talk about those cities of the future.
Okay.
That futuristic podcast really captured my imagination with its description of these skyscrapers.
Yeah.
They look like glistening glaciers powered by renewable energy with self-healing glass.
Oh, wow.
And even vertical farms built right in.
Very cool.
Okay. Self-healing glass. That is something I need in my life.
Right.
Imagine never having to deal with a cracked window again.
That would be amazing.
I love that these futuristic cityscapes aren't just about cool tech.
Right?
They're also focused on sustainability.
Yeah, that's a major theme that runs through a lot of these sources.
Like solar and wind power are playing a huge role in powering these future cities.
Definitely. And it sounds like nanotechnology is going to be key in creating those advanced materials.
Which several sources mention.
Like the self-healing glass.
Exactly.
And it's not just about the buildings themselves.
Okay.
These sources envision entire ecosystems within these futuristic cities, with vertical farms providing fresh produce and green spaces integrated throughout the urban landscape.
It's like a sci-fi movie, but with the contents.
It is.
Okay, if you could design your dream apartment in this high-tech city of the future, what would it be like?
Well, I definitely want a balcony with a panoramic view of those glittering skyscrapers.
Ooh.
And maybe a robot chef who can whip up gourmet meals on demand.
Okay, now you're talking.
Right.
But, amidst all this excitement about flying cars and futuristic skyscrapers,
Yeah.
we can't forget about the human element.
Right. All this amazing tech is great.
It is.
But it's only as good as the people using it.
And that's where things get really interesting.
It is.
Because several of these sources raise concerns about the impact of all this rapid technological advancement.
Right.
How will we adapt to a world where AI is everywhere?
Especially in the workplace.
Especially in the workplace.
Yeah.
I remember reading in this one article about the possibility of job displacement.
Oh, yeah.
Because of AI.
Automation driven by AI.
Exactly. And it's not just a future problem. This is happening now.
It is.
This Wikipedia article points out that as of 2017, 1 in 5 companies had already incorporated AI into their operations.
And that number has almost certainly gone up since then.
So it's not just about whether robots will take our jobs.
Right.
It's about what kinds of jobs will even exist in a world where AI is doing so much of the work.
It's a really important point.
Yeah.
And it leads to some thought-provoking questions, like what skills will be most valuable in a world where technology is this advanced?
Yeah. Will it be creativity, adaptability, critical thinking?
Yeah.
What do you think?
Well, if I had to choose one skill that will be essential in the future, it would be. I'd say the ability to learn and adapt quickly.
Yeah.
That's going to be huge, because if these sources are any indication, the world of 2050 is going to be changing at warp speed.
Definitely. And it's not just about, learning new technical skills.
Right.
It's also about being able to, think critically, solve problems creatively, and collaborate effectively with both humans and AI.
Yeah, it's interesting.
So maybe instead of fearing the rise of the machines, we should be thinking about how to work with them to create something even better.
That's a great way to look at it. After all, technology is a tool.
Yeah.
And like any tool, it can be used for good or for ill.
Right.
It's up to us to decide how we want to shape the future.
Yeah, this whole deep dive has really been making me think about the choices we're making today and how they'll ripple out over the next few decades.
That's the power of exploring these future scenarios.
Okay.
It helps us see the potential consequences of our actions and to make more informed decisions.
I have to ask about something that was mentioned in that sci-fi podcast.
Okay.
It talked about DNA computing.
Yeah.
Is that even a real thing?
It is, and it's pretty mind-blowing.
Okay.
Basically, DNA computing uses the information-carrying capacity of DNA molecules to perform calculations.
Wait, so instead of silicon chips, we could have computers powered by DNA?
Exactly. It's still in its early stages, but the potential is enormous.
Yeah.
Imagine being able to store massive amounts of data, like the entire Library of Congress, on a single strand of DNA.
Okay, that's officially beyond my comprehension, but it sounds incredible.
It really does push the boundaries of what we think is possible.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder what other seemingly outlandish ideas from science fiction might become reality by 2050.
Speaking of pushing boundaries, I noticed that a few of these sources touched on some potential risks and challenges associated with all this technological advancement.
Right, because while there's a lot to be excited about, we also need to be aware of the potential downsides.
Like I remember one article talking about AI bias.
Oh, yeah.
Like if the data used to train AI systems is biased, could that lead to unfair or discriminatory outcomes?
It's definitely a valid concern, and it highlights the need for careful consideration of the ethical implications of AI development and deployment.
Right.
We need to make sure that these powerful technologies are used responsibly and don't exacerbate existing inequalities.
Seems like a lot of these challenges come down to human choices, right?
Yeah.
How we design these systems, what data we feed them, what safeguards we put in place.
Absolutely, technology itself is neutral.
Right.
It's the human element that determines whether it's used for good or for ill.
So, in a way, this deep dive into 2050 isn't just about predicting the future.
Right.
It's also about reminding us that we have the power to shape it.
I couldn't agree more. The future isn't something that just happens to us.
Right.
It's something we create through the choices we make every day.
Well, you've certainly given me a lot to think about,
Good.
and I'm sure our listeners feeling the same way.
I hope so.
So as we wrap up this incredible journey into the world of 2050, what's the one key takeaway you want to leave them with?
Well, I think a big takeaway is that the future isn't set in stone.
Right.
It's full of possibilities, but also potential pitfalls. And, it's up to us to navigate those carefully.
It's both exciting and a little daunting, isn't it?
It is.
Like we're standing at the edge of a whole new era.
It really is, but knowledge is power, right?
Yeah.
And by, diving deep into these sources, I think we've gained a lot of insights into what the future might hold.
Absolutely. We've explored how AI could transform everything from our work to our cities.
Right.
We've talked about the rise of flying cars and even the mind-boggling potential of DNA computing.
That's right. But we've also acknowledged the challenges that come with such rapid technological advancement.
Right, like the potential for job displacement.
Yes.
The ethical considerations of AI decision-making.
Yeah.
And the importance of ensuring that these advancements benefit everyone, not just a select few.
Absolutely.
So it's not just about embracing the cool tech.
No.
It's about making sure we're using it wisely and responsibly.
I think that's a great point. The future isn't predetermined. It's shaped by the choices we make today.
Yeah.
And those choices should be guided by a deep understanding of the potential benefits and risks of these emerging technologies.
Well said. I think this deep dive has given our listener a lot to ponder.
I hope.
And hopefully it sparked some important conversations about the kind of future we want to create.
Me too. Because ultimately, the future belongs to all of us, and it's up to each of us to play a role in shaping it.
That's a great note to end on. Thanks for joining us on this incredible journey into the world of 2050.